from your local election headquarters. This is Politics Today with Jackie Kingston.
Some Amarillo residents file a petition against a city ordinance, how they hope to overturn the city's decision on funding for the Amarillo Civic Center project. And the Amarillo City Council is proposing a new tax rate that could cost homeowners more. We'll take a look at how they plan to use those funds. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here. And we always get worried that there won't be much to talk about during the dog days of summer, nothing local anyway. We are always wrong. There is always something to talk about and always something happening, which is why it's so important to be a voter here in the city of Amarillo. We've got more on that coming up a little bit later in this show. The city of Amarillo is proposing a new tax rate that could have local homeowners paying more. Politics Today's Jack Kessler kicking us off this morning with more from the city about how this increase, what it could mean for residents, and why one city council member is opposed to parts of the increase.
The city of Amarillo voted on setting a maximum property tax rate of 0.49 Tuesday. And with this proposal, homeowners could see a $4 a month increase for a $100,000 home. The proposed tax rate increases to pay for issued debt is 0.049, which would pay for projects.
And so with that, there's a few new projects that council's approved this last year. And so that's going to fund those new projects and all of the outstanding projects that prior councils have approved as well.
That 0.049 increase would bring in an additional $12.5 million and will go to pay for projects already approved like the new City Hall, the field lighting for city parks, and the Civic Center project. The proposed tax rate increase without the approved debt is 0.031 for a total of 8% from the adjusted rate. That money will go towards public safety items. If the Civic Center project does not move forward, the City Council cannot use those funds for new projects.
And for some reason that project gets delayed, that money that is collected from the property tax rate can go to pay down outstanding debt that is already supported and been approved by City Council to be funded from property taxes.
Councilmember Cole Stanley was the only member of the council to oppose the tax rate.
My issue is with the INS side. It relates only to debt and debt service. It doesn't have anything to do with the maintenance and operations of the budget. I'm in favor of what they've presented for additional fire and police and even increases in other things that we have needs around the city. But on the INS side, that is a tax increase that is for an ordinance that is encumbered right now.
He also opposed due to the country being in a recession.
We're watching the economy slow, and we're watching some things change. I'm being considerate of my taxpayer and looking at going into a recession here is now the best time to increase taxes.
If finalized through the two readings and votes on August 16th and 19th, the property tax will be locked in by the 19th.
Some of those public safety items that the proposed tax rate will help provide include 4 new police officers, 15 new firefighters, a new fire station, and a new fire district chief. If this tax plan is approved, Amarillo residents will see a less than 2% increase on their total tax bill. Residents 65 years and older will not see an increase. The Potter County District Court judge has denied the motion for Amarillo's motion for a security against suit against Alex Fairley. The motion, which was filed last month, would have required Fairley to pay for the claims of the increased cost to the overall project the city says will be caused by Fairley's lawsuit. Fairley's legal team argued Fairley did not cause the delay, saying the Texas Attorney General had not yet approved the anticipation notes to fund the project. In a statement, Fairley says, "We are pleased but remain focused on the larger issue." The city of Amarillo told us it does not comment on pending litigation. A group of Amarillo citizens say they filed a petition to overturn the city's ordinance approving the issuance of $260 million in tax notes to fund the expansion and renovation of the Amarillo Civic Center complex. They say the petition was filed Wednesday with the city's secretary as the group of citizens aims to repeal the ordinance and bring the issue back to voters in an election. Politics Today's Kaylee Green explains.
This petition comes after Amarillo businessman Alex Fairley filed a lawsuit in Potter County in late May, saying the city council's vote to use the $260 million in tax notes was illegal. However, this petition is separate from the ongoing litigation between Fairley and the city.
We are thrilled and inspired and will be absolutely supporting and behind it. We've been aware for a couple weeks that it's in the works. The lawsuit will continue. We think it's important principally no matter what, but we think this petition drive, it's simply another front to open up in this fight.
The city's charter says community members have 120 days to participate in this petition, making the deadline December 1st. Organizers are required to collect signatures from at least 5% of registered voters within the city of Amarillo. The city will then have 21 days to verify that the minimum required number of citizens signed the document. After that, the city council will consider the measure proposed by the petition in an open hearing with public comment. After the hearing, the City Council will have 30 days to take final action, either repealing or refunding to repeal the ordinance. If the Council refuses to repeal the ordinance, the referring committee has the right to call an election on the matter. We have confirmed that community members, including Potter County GOP Chairman Dan Rogers, Randall County GOP Chairman Tim Revelle, and Amarillo City Council member Cole Stanley have signed the petition. Rogers noted a bond issue for the Civic Center was turned down by voters in 2020.
Even people that voted for the bond issue are against what the city's doing. I mean, if you let this happen, they can do anything they want. They can raise your taxes for any reason. All they got to do is issue tax notes.
I signed that petition as a citizen and as a taxpayer because I feel that it's important that the full voice of the citizen and taxpayer gets heard on this issue.
The City of Amarillo's Secretary's office confirmed a petition was submitted and is working to verify the signatures on the list. We've requested the petition from the city. They have not provided that petition filed with them. We have obtained a copy of what several signees say is the petition. In studio, Kaylee Green, KAMR Local 4 News. Jackie.
All right, Kaylee, thank you. We have reached out to the City of Amarillo about the petition. The city's communications team says it has no comment. Reporter David Gay has been working on this tirelessly for the past several weeks and other Civic Center related items. You can see his reporting, including what Randall County GOP Chairman Tim Revelle has to say about why he signed the petition at myhighplains.com. Also this week, Amarillo city leaders approved 2 agreements in Tuesday's council meeting between the Amarillo Economic Development Corporation and Albers Airspace. The city council approved a location incentive agreement for a project estimated at $50 million in improvements and 400 new employees. It'll give Albers Airspace $8 million for job creation and convey 30 acres to the company.
He is one of the field leaders in unmanned flight, and they have a patent on a product called eVTOL, and so that's one of the things that they will bring to Amarillo if they choose Amarillo to be here. And so we're super excited about Albers being here. They're going to create 400 new jobs that pay over $100,000 a year.
The other item approved is a tax abatement agreement for the project that would last 10 years. Randall High School hosted an open house to show the community all of the upgrades they've installed and unveiling the new Randall Junior High School. The renovations focused on updating the high school campus. They included new safety measures. The improvements were paid for by the 2018 bond. The bond turned portions of the old high school campus into the new junior high school campus. The bond also included the construction of 3 new campuses, including West Plains High School, Spring Canyon Elementary, and Heritage Hills Elementary. The principal of Robb Elementary in Uvalde is returning to work days after being suspended due to an investigation to the recent mass shooting. Coming up, what her attorney had to say about her role in that tragedy. I'm Jackie Kingston. You're watching Politics Today from your local election headquarters. Texas students could see drastic changes in social studies curriculum for the next 10 years. It all hinges on a once-in-a-decade rewrite from the Texas State Board of Education. Monday, the board held a special meeting to discuss proposed curriculum changes. Politics Today's Monica Madden dives into the debate over what to teach in history, when it should be taught, and how to teach it.
Learning the truth has been incredibly transformative in how I see the world.
Recent graduate Olivia Castillo says her high school world history class in Fort Worth missed the mark.
It's just as important for students to understand the diversity of human experience.
She joined more than 100 people who showed up to the State Board of Education's special meeting on Monday. Folks packed into the boardroom, all hoping their views will be considered in the reshaping of TEKS, the state standards for K-12 education.
Where's the civics? Where's the culture?
It's nearly impossible to cover 20,000 years of history.
The proposed changes come from a working committee of content advisors and volunteer educators.
It was a long process.
As they discussed their findings for the first time Monday, the debate over what to teach and when was clear.
which people and events have had a long-term impact on U.S. history.
Some argue the history of indigenous people and other groups are not taught fairly and accurately.
There's a glaring absence of Asian American experiences, events, and historical figures across different state social studies curricula. Texas is no exception.
Others say topics like race and religion are too complex for certain grades.
I don't think that first grade is appropriate to teach major tenets of world religions.
Hours of discussion, which will shape the minds of Texas students for the next decade to come.
The board is not making a decision on these curriculum changes just yet. Members will meet again for a regular meeting at the end of this month, but that agenda has not yet been published. We'll keep you apprised of those results. Robb Elementary School's principal is officially back to work after just a few days of being suspended with pay. Politics Today's Jayla Washington spoke with her attorney.
Work is continuing, getting those set up.
As Uvalde CISD superintendent, in a series of YouTube videos, shows major steps to make all campuses more secure.
Enhanced camera coverage.
It's still not clear why Robb Elementary was not as secure as it should have been.
I'll keep this as brief as possible.
So I sat down with the attorney of Principal Mandy Gutierrez. The preliminary investigative report says room 111 was widely known to be faulty, but was not repaired.
If there was a complaint, there would be action taken.
Principal Gutierrez's attorney says she nor the principal before her were ever told about issues with the door not locking, though he does tell me teachers document problems verbally before an official work order is filed.
They'd come and say, hey, there's something wrong here.
If I'm telling somebody something verbally and it's not making it to the necessary person it needs to make it to, that's not to say I didn't put in this complaint or I didn't have concerns. It just never got documented. Is there anything more as principal she could have done?
We can Monday morning quarterback, all policies and procedures.
The attorney tells me custodians made sure doors were locked properly every night. If a teacher's classroom wasn't locked, they'd get in trouble.
The policy of the school, and she enforced it. She would counsel them. They did it again, she would write them up.
Gutierrez's attorney blames faulty doors on the building being old and says teachers had to work around for all doors to make sure they were properly locked. All in all, there's still the question of whether there was a culture of noncompliance, leading to a lack of security.
She got very high marks on her annual evaluation because she didn't take security lightly. She was not complacent. She didn't have a culture of noncompliance.
But doesn't the culture start with the leader?
There's always more than we can do. When you have the death of 19 children and 2 teachers.
School in Uvalde is scheduled to start the Tuesday after Labor Day. Alex Jones must pay more than $4 million to the family of a Sandy Hook shooting victim. It's the first of 2 fines an Austin jury is deciding. The $4.1 million ruling is for damages he owes to compensate the plaintiffs over the false claims he made that the shooting was a hoax. On Friday, the jury was considering a punitive fine. However, that decision wasn't made before we started taping this show. The plaintiffs in the case are among several Sandy Hook families who have filed lawsuits against Jones. A Texas man found guilty for his role in the January 6th riot was sentenced on Monday. Guy Raffitt was sentenced to 7 years, 3 months in prison for his role in the Capitol riot. The sentencing follows a day of legal arguments which culminated in Raffitt speaking before the judge. Prosecutors had asked for as much as 15 years of prison time for Raffitt. In March, a jury found him guilty on 5 counts in his attempt to storm the Capitol carrying a gun and zip ties. It's the longest prison sentence so far for any of the January 6th defendants. Texas colleges are working to prevent outbreaks of monkeypox. Coming up, we'll take a look at how West Texas A&M University is involved. Universities across the state are thinking about what to do to prevent monkeypox outbreaks, including WT. Some warn college students especially might be more prone to contract it. Politics Today's Jayla Washington is back to explain why.
This isn't the first fluid situation college students have had to deal with getting ready to be back on campus. But it's definitely something they're starting to talk more about.
Yeah, hopefully it's not a COVID 2.0 thing.
Well, I know now that it's not just sexually transmittable. So I guess I'm a little worried
about people coming in here and spreading.
Education is going to be key. At least that's what a handful of universities tell us they're focusing on as students make their way back to campus.
College students, being college students, maybe tend to engage in a little more risky behavior. So I think greater awareness.
West Texas A&M in the Amarillo area says it's working with its local health department, monitoring cases in the area. And Texas State University near Austin says it's doing the same.
In general, it resolves in 2 to 4 weeks, but those people need to be isolated and they need to be interviewed to understand their close contacts. We have therapeutics, vaccinations.
Other universities we reached out to did not have concrete plans to share with us to deal with potential outbreaks. But Texas did receive nearly 15,000 doses of monkeypox vaccine toward the end of July. Around that time, there were 80 confirmed cases. And now, not even 2 weeks later, the state has nearly 400 confirmed cases. That's nearly a 500% increase.
We're going to watch, observe, and respond as needed.
Maybe I'll be more careful when I go out. Yeah.
Experts warn close contact of any kind could put you at risk. CPAC kicks off in Dallas last week. Coming up, hear what Governor Greg Abbott had to say during his speech. We'll be right back. Governor Greg Abbott appoints an Amarillo woman to the One-Star National Service Commission. Verlene Dixon is the director of the Veterans Resource Center with Family Support Services. She served the U.S. Army. She's retired from the military since 2013. Dixon is also the treasurer of the Amarillo Community Lions Club. Her term is set to expire in 2024. Governor Abbott making an appearance at this year's Conservative Political Action Conference, CPAC. His appearance drawing attention as the race for governor between Abbott and Beto O'Rourke narrows. We kept Jayla Washington busy this week. She joins us now with a recap.
Abbott's messaging focused on key issues for conservatives that have been at the center of his re-election campaign: the border, business, and parents' rights.
So he really talked up the fact that Texas has seen a lot of economic growth even in the pandemic, with more Fortune 500 headquarters being housed here than any other state. When touching on one of the most prominent campaign points, he gave himself a lot of credit for working to secure borders in Texas, busing migrants to Washington, D.C. to send a message to President Biden. And Abbott also made it clear that he feels parents should have a say in their kids' education, giving credit to himself again in his role in banning critical race theory. He called out his opponent Beto O'Rourke, suggesting he doesn't agree with parents having more control. In a statement, his campaign responded saying, "As governor, Beto will fully fund our Texas schools and fully support Texas students, parents, and teachers after years of Greg Abbott underfunding our classrooms and calling for defunding public education." Abbott left the CPAC crowd with this main message.
Texas believes in freedom. Texas believes in the power of the individual. We want to have safe communities, a secure border. We're going to be fighting for you every step of the way. Keep Texas red.
Now, there was no mention of some other key issues that are top of mind for Texans right now: school safety after Uvalde and abortion. Reporting from the newsroom, Jayla Washington, back to you.
Jayla, thank you. To Washington now. The U.S. Senate passed the PACT Act on Tuesday. After a week of unexpected hurdles, the Senate approved the legislation by a vote of 86 to 11. The final vote came days after days of protests by veterans groups, their families, and comedian Jon Stewart outside of the Capitol. The $280 billion package will provide expanded health care benefits for veterans exposed to burn pits in Iraq and Afghanistan. U.S. officials say a CIA drone strike has killed al-Qaeda leader Ayman al-Zawahiri in Afghanistan. Current and former government officials began hearing Sunday afternoon that al-Zawahiri had been killed. Sources say the administration delayed releasing that information until his death could be confirmed. The president confirmed the death of the al-Qaeda leader during a televised address to the American people on Monday. The Taliban is calling the killing a violation of international principles. The death of the leader comes almost a year after the United States completed its withdrawal from Afghanistan, which it invaded in 2001 following the September 11th attacks orchestrated by Osama bin Laden. We'll wrap things up here on Politics Today right after this. If you are a viewer of this show, you probably know the importance of registering to making sure your registration is correct, accurate, and up to date, and then finally going out and voting. And the League of Women Voters here in Amarillo continuing its registration efforts for the November general election. The league is hosting a series of events through the registration deadline of October 11th. LWV says there will be many opportunities to register in September as well. They're offering to hold registration drives at any local organization, business, nonprofit, or church. You can find them on social media. I'll link to them on my Facebook page where you can find me. Also on Twitter, I'm there too. Jackie Kingston plus the number 1 on the Twitter machine. I love your feedback. Stay up with all the latest political news with us throughout the week over on our website. That, of course, myhighplains.com. Wherever you are on social media, we are too. Thanks for being here this week. We hope you have a wonderful start to your week, and we will see you again next Sunday.